Good afternoon, everybody. You're still here. That's a really good sign. So I am going to touch a little bit on new recycling systems, current opportunities, as well as some new opportunities when I get the magic sticker. So first of all, data. So this is what our data shows is a typical composition of a red bin. We've got about 31% loose food, about 7% recyclable containers, about 1.5% of that is glass. We've got 7% sort of soft plastics, and if you think this is by weight. So if we've got 7% by weight of soft plastics, imagine the volume that that takes up. And we've got about 5% of textiles, predominantly used clothing. So the current opportunities we have is what to do with what's in the red bin. So 12% of that, paper, cardboard and the containers, should be in the recycling bin, but aren't. 2.5% of that should be in the garden organics bin, but it's not. 1% of it, which is the e-waste and the hazardous, shouldn't be in the bin at all, including the batteries. And we've got about 31% loose food, and we've got combined, if you include the other 12% of containerised food and liquid, we've got 43% that should be or could be in a FOGO bin, which is where we're all heading. So FOGO, we're about to see the big green wave. There's a whole session about FOGO, so I'm not going to talk about that at all. Only to say that you hear a lot about FOGO and some best practice results, which are how much food is being diverted to FOGO. And out of the 19 recent audits that we have done, that the data's up here, 2 of them are getting 75% recovery, which is fantastic. One of them is getting 8%. One of them is getting 15%. That's not what you hear about. So my message to you is our average is 34% food recovery. So if you're in council and you're doing modelling about how much diversion you're going to get from a FOGO service, I think you need to calibrate it down a bit, because you can get to 75, but it's hard, it's long, it's arduous, and you need a lot of tenacity to get there and a big budget. So I don't want to be the dampener in the room, I'm just trying to be the realist. Whoops. Glass recovery. There was another session in another stream this afternoon. Alex from Tonkin and Taylor did a whole session on the purple bin in Victoria. So for their wisdom, they have decided that they've mandated that there should be a 4th bin for glass only. Most councils are using a 120 litre bin, and it's mostly collected on a monthly basis. 22 councils so far have introduced the purple bin. Most of those are in the regional and rural areas, 18, and only 4 of them are in the metro area. If you're in the Alex session, she also spoke about the fact that 22 councils have joined forces to go back to government to say there was a regulatory impact statement that was done with a whole lot of scenarios and data, and now they're using real-world data provided by those 22 councils, have come up with a new average council, and surprise, surprise, their recovery is not as great, the cost is much more, their emissions, greenhouse gas emissions that are greater than what was anticipated, and between when the government mandated the 4th bin for glass, and now we've had the introduction of a CDS program in Victoria, and with the interest in harmonisation of CDS programs nationally, it is highly likely in the not too distant future that New South Wales and the other states, including Victoria, will follow Queensland and add wine and spirit bottles to the 10-cent redemption, which means even more material will come out of the yellow bin because it has a value. So if you're thinking, government or anybody, about going to a 4th purple bin, I think you need to look at the Tonkin and Taylor presentation, because I think it's very enlightening. So looking at the recycling data for New South Wales and how this might play out, currently one of the rationales for the purple bin in Victoria was to increase glass recovery. So glass is only 1.5% of our current red bin, and it's 27% of our recycling bin. If we take that glass out of the recycling bin and put it in a new bin, we've already got contamination at 20% to go to Garth's point. You take 27 or 25 or 20% out of that bin, what's going to go up is going to be contamination. So the contamination that we see in yellow bins ranges from 6 to 36%. And when you've got 36% contamination, you haven't got a recycling bin, you've got a garbage bin. So we need to do everything we possibly can to manage contamination and not add to it in any way, shape or form, or the MRFs will be seriously not happy. So the two new opportunities I think that we have is to talk about textiles. And this is in connection with MSW. So 80% of all textiles are going to landfill, about 800,000 tonnes. It's been reported. And the current options that we have is you can donate your good quality clothing, linen towels to an op shop for resale, reuse. The poor quality material, the unwearables, some councils, and I live in one that is, I'm very fortunate, has a textile recovery program at the transfer stations and the landfill, so I'm in Shoalhaven Council. Or you can put in your curbside bin. And so we see about 5% from that earlier slide, the very first graph I showed, 5% of the red bin is textiles, and about 1.5% of the recycling bin is also textiles. So people are doing the wish cycling. They'd like it to be recycled, so they're putting it in the bin, but in the recycling bin, but all it's doing is adding to the contamination. And there's about 20 kilos per household per annum of textile waste that is generated from the data that we have. Oops. So, oops, I've gone too many. Oops. So the bag in a bin has been a concept that's been around for maybe 10 or so years. The idea being to give householders a special bag which is highly identifiable, which can go in the curbside bin and be extracted at the MRF that only holds a particular commodity. So 10 years ago, Handy Bin Services, who have the contract here at Coffs Coast, did a pilot study on what would happen if we gave the householders a plastic bag and asked them to put their good quality used clothing and toweling and linen into that. So the trial was to determine the weight, the volume, the participation, the type, the quality and the contamination by doing that. It was collected by the same truck that did the yellow bin, so people were instructed to either put the bag in the bin or if there was no room in the bin to put it beside the bin, and the normal collection vehicle took it. And they did a partnership with an op shop who came in, sorted all of the material to determine what the quality, the type, and if or not it was saleable. So of that results, 42% of what they collected in these trial areas were saleable, 35% was of an export quality that could go overseas, 10% of it was rags, not rage, and 14% of it was waste. So the learnings from that study, now this is a decade ago, and this is really probably before or at the cusp of when fast fashion really started to take off. So if you did this trial now, the numbers might be slightly different, and I would think probably higher, not lower. But the community absolutely embraced the program in these pilot projects, or these pilot areas. On average, they put out 3 bags per annum, and each bag weighed about 4 kilos, or 3.7 kilos. 50% of the bags were in the bin and 50% of the bags were beside the bin. So one of the learnings from that is that most or half the households had no spare capacity in their recycling bin, so you needed to upsize their bin to a 360 litre to be able to accommodate a project such as this. The bags were easily removable at the MRF, there was no problems with those. There was a breakage of about 10% from either the seams breaking from compaction or from people trying to push too much into the bag. They did need to do some truck rerouting because of the volume of material that was coming through in the truck. And the key outcome was that the charities couldn't keep up with the volume of material that was coming through. So the trials were so successful, the bit I missed, the trials were so successful that Coffs Coast put the textile collection into the curbside contract. So that all of a sudden the bags and the curbside program was available to all, and then the op shops were overcome with how much material was available to them, and so supply and demand mismatched each other, and regrettably the project was ceased because the op shops couldn't cope with the inundation of material. And at that time there was no other real alternative as to where some of this material could go. So the learnings, so what Shoalhaven Council have done is looking at a variety of outlets for the material based on the waste hierarchy, and looking at making sure they've got options of where the material can go. So learnings from Coffs Harbour they probably didn't even know about the Coffs trial, but they've made these alternative pathways available to themselves. So the first one is there is the reusable network. So if it's saleable, it goes through an op shop or it goes through the buyback centres at the waste transfer stations and landfills. It's repurposed by being exported, where it's mechanically deconstructed and then remanufactured into blankets, camping mats, rugs, and a lot of those, for those that are regular op shoppers, we'll see a lot of the op shops now are storing or selling those as being new product made out of recycled textiles and fibre. And they're also including textiles that have no value into a process engineered fuel that is being then used for energy in cement kilns up in the Southern Highlands, along with mattresses, lounges, plastics, timbers and foams. So about 10% of all of the waste that would be going to landfill, Shoalhaven are actually using, manufacturing a PEF product and keeping that out of landfill. And if Peter Windley is here, and I hope he is somewhere, yep, there he is, up the back. So Peter's the waste manager at Shoalhaven, doing an amazing job. If you want more information, see him. And the other bag in a bin that I want to just briefly talk about is another project that is addressing the issue of soft plastics and the collapse of REDcycle. So IQ Renew and the Kirby program have undertaken trials for about 5 years to try to perfect, can you get the community to put soft plastics in a bag, in a bin, and can the MRF get it out, and what's going to happen in terms of the fear factor of it's all going to get contaminated, or people are going to put it in loose and it's going to increase the contamination in the commingled bin. So we know that the average red bin has about 7% soft plastics by weight, and it's a huge amount by volume. So the Kirby program that has been going for some time now and has 4 councils signed up to it, you basically use any device, you go to the Kirby Rewards site, you download a QR code, you place it on the Kirby bag that you get, and if it's not in a Kirby bag, basically the MRF deems it to be contamination, and they're having about 1% bag breakage as opposed to about 10% that was with the textiles, and I think that's an absolute factor about the weight of the bag.
Welcome to IQ Renews.
Sorry. So the average bag weight is about 550 grams. Most householders are recycling every fortnight. Currently, the MRF at Somersby, which is operated by IQ Renew, is processing about 6,000 bags per week, and that's equivalent to 2 to 3 tonnes of material. And they've got about 40,000 active users across 4 New South Wales councils. So far, they've diverted about 350 tonnes of soft plastic from landfill, and IQ Renew, I think, are to be congratulated because in the post-wash-up of the REDcycle collapse, they've invested and built the first soft plastics engineered commodity facility at Taree on the mid-north coast, which mechanically sorts and separates material. And I think the easiest way to let you understand what that looks like is to watch the video, and IQ Renew have got to stand out the front as well. And I'm not on their payroll. I just think that those that invest and innovate need to be recognised for the effort, because as Garth said, nothing in this industry is easy. It all requires a damn lot of hard work. So well done to those that are trying to look at new things, which is what we need to all learn from.
Welcome to IQ Renew's Industrial Ecology Hub, located on the mid-coast of New South Wales.
My name is Annika Stott and I'm IQ Renew's Group Project Manager. We're here today at our SPEC facility. SPEC stands for Soft Plastic Engineered Commodity. This is Australia's largest purpose-built facility for processing post-consumer soft plastic waste. Come inside, let's take a closer look. This is our receival floor, where soft plastics like food wrappers, cling film and plastic bags arrive at the facility through collection programs such as Curbcycle and Return to Store pilot programs.
Once here, the material is lifted onto a conveyor belt and it begins its journey to be transformed. This is advanced mechanical recycling in action. The first step is sorting. Here, the soft plastics go through a number of stages to be sorted into different polymer types.
We use magnets to extract metals from things like citrus fruit bags.
Our optical sorters are trained to identify and separate materials based on their specific plastic types, such as LDPE, HDPE, and polypropylene. Materials with high chlorine content like PVC are extracted here.
The material is then sorted into different streams, which gives us various grades of plastic. For example, over here, this clean and clear white fluffy stuff is purely LDPE.
Next, the material is thoroughly washed and dried, and from here it can be extruded into flake or pellets ready for reuse.
Our extruders process up to 750 kilos of resin pellets per hour, turning the sorted material into a new product, resin pellets, which can be used by injection molders, chemical recyclers, it can be blown back into film. The possibilities are endless. Let's have a look at the resin pellets.
We produce three main products here at SPEC: shred, flake, and pellets. These can be purchased by manufacturers to create new products. Some of our recycled material is used immediately to create products like fence posts, buckets, bags, boards, grids, and so much more. The benefits of using recycled soft plastics are real. We are showcasing what is possible in soft plastic recycling. We're supporting Australian manufacturing and we're creating local jobs.
At IQ we're leading the way in soft plastic recycling.
Making a real difference for our environment and our community.
Join us. The time for action is now.